The creative director at Realtime Worlds. It's a big freeform city-based game, which we've had some experience of developing in the past, and we want to do something on next gen in that sort of genre. And we really wanted to make it so that the freeform, the sandbox stuff in the game was a real main integral part of the game. So traditionally we know players love doing freeform stuff, but it always tends to be the sideline to maybe a linear mission-based game. So we actually wanted the freeform stuff to feed back into your character and actually make the game, all about the sandbox. The backstory to the game is basically we have this very large city called Pacific City, which is basically overridden with crime. Basically, normal police forces they've given up hope. It's just impossible that really crime-ridden, infected cities. So we have this new force set up called the Agency, which is sort of last bastion of trying to get law and order back into the city, and they are using basically what's been experimental techniques for many years, which is creating effectively clones from DNA, but then infusing them with some sort of nanobot technology and some sort of drugs technology, which lets them really accelerate the growth rate. So basically, they go out at a pretty standard sort of, brand new human clone into the world, but everything they do really enhances, how they progress very rapidly. So it is fairly new. They go in, and basically, the job of an agent that works for the agency is really to try and clean up an entire city. Now, at the start, they don't really have the power to do that, but they do progress pretty rapidly. So at the start of the game, you'll be struggling a little bit. It'll be, just all the street punks will be a bit of a challenging fight. But as you really start playing more and more, taking more of them down, then basically your character becomes more and more powerful. So, an hour into the game, the guys that you were struggling with, with the character progression, an hour ago, become extremely simple fodder for you then. So it's a great empowering effect for the player. And the city is basically dominated by three gangs. We have Los Muertos, which is one of the gangs. We have the Volk, which is the second gang, and we have the Corporation as a third gang. Each of these has sort of 7 kingpins which control the whole gang. And basically the whole point of Crackdown is to go and find these 21 gang leaders and take them down. How you do that is completely up to you. This is not any sort of linear thing. They were always in play all the time. You can actually find the sort of 21st gang on the top one, and he's there in play all the time. Obviously, when you start the game, to try and go up against him is practically impossible. He's very well guarded. These guys are much higher level than you. But basically, you then go, and all the freeform stuff just keeps empowering you. So you decide, you're ready to take these guys on. So one by one, you really need to start whittling them down. And there's a bit of strategy in there as well, because each of the 7 gang leaders in each gang has an important role in the gang. So for example, one's a firearms dealer, one's a recruiter. So if you take the recruiter down, you'll find that basically the number of guards that each of the kingpins has goes down significantly until they can get a new recruiter in place. And whereas they may be driving around very powerful cars, if you take out the car dealer from the gang, then for a while they're back to driving Daewoo's and things like that. So basically taking down the gang leaders in order can actually make your life a little bit easier as well. Visually for Crackdown, we wanted to come up with our own style. Obviously we've pushed the characters towards these sort of superhuman traits and everything. We wanted to create this massive, huge, vast world with amazing vistas and everything. So we had to set ourselves apart from sort of being down at sort of just at street level where people have gone for sort of photorealistic type. So we've gone for a sort of a comic book style of rendering, where we've actually used outlining on the characters, tremendous use of color variety in the game, very different look to the city versus sort of daytime versus nighttime. So I would say comic book inspiration is mostly where we've drawn the actual sort of graphic theme from where we're coming from. And the city physically gets cleaned up as well, so it's very sort of grimy and dirty when the gangs are in control. But as you as the agents start to take down the gangs and clean out the bad guys, then physically, we can actually we clean the city up and make it look, much nicer place to live, basically. So you get this nice painting effect going through the city as you're going in and taking the trash out, as we say.
So does that tie into you mentioned that some things are superhuman and a little bit of hyperbole in the way that people explode.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of going for the comic book motion as well.
Yes, because you can run, sort of 50, 60 miles per hour, you can leap, 10, 20, 30 meters, then we wanted to make it gamey, so we didn't want to try, create sort of, like I said, a very realistic looking city, because we would have broke it with, as you say, the nature of the characters and how they react and everything. But I think that's great because, at the end of the day, it is a game. So, we really wanted to make sure the player knows everything that's going on, everything in the world. It's very visual, very bright, and lots of visual feedback. So the cartoon style, the comic book style, really sort of helped us to re-emphasize that.